Carson Hocevar says a NASCAR Hall of Famer reached out to him after Atlanta. You'll never guess who it is. And Team Trackhouse is poised for a big Texas-sized weekend here at Circuit of the Americas. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove on the Go, coming to you from beautiful, sunny Austin, Texas. Cup Series qualifying just wrapped up. How about 2311 Racing 1-2, Tyler Reddick on the pole? We'll talk about Trackhouse in a moment, but they impressed in practice. And then in qualifying, Daniel Suarez 5th, SVG 6th, Ross Chastain 9th, the new guy, Connor Zilic 14th, not bad. But first, I want to talk about Carson Hocevar. Qualified 4th. It's pretty darn good. He had a strong run at Atlanta, finished 2nd, but afterwards he had to answer questions about his aggressive driving style. He spun Ryan Blaney and then in overtime shuffled his Chevy teammate Ross Chastain. And this weekend at COTA, he was still answering questions. He said that NASCAR Hall of Famer Mark Martin actually reached out to show him some support.
The only two conversations that were, I don't even want to say negative, but were of criticism were the second I got out of the race car that everybody saw on TV. The rest were all positive for me. I think one of the most shocking was when Mark Martin tried to hunt my phone number down, and he has a really good relationship with Luke Lambert, and just wanted to tell Luke and reassure him that to just let me go race and be myself, and just go there for the 77 car and sometimes be a little bit more selfish.
Be selfish. Wow, I would not have expected Mark Martin, cool, calm, clean Mark Martin, to be the one to reach out and show Carson Hocevar some support, but I'm glad he did. Like I said earlier in the week, Carson Hocevar only made 2 mistakes last weekend. One was spinning out Ryan Blaney. You can't bump a guy entering turn 1. That's risky, that's dangerous. Learn from that. But the only other mistake Hocevar made was not winning the race. And shoot, if the caution doesn't come out on the final lap, maybe he does win that race. Sure, Carson made some unorthodox, aggressive moves, but outside of the Blaney contact, I didn't see anything that was wildly out of line. And for what it's worth, neither did his veteran teammate, Michael McDowell, who says he and Carson haven't even talked about Atlanta this week.
No, we didn't really talk about Atlanta. I mean, we were working more on road courses and getting ready for COTA. I didn't really have much to say. I think he handled it well and has, an idea of what he did right and what he did wrong and what he would do different. So you got to pick and choose your battles. There's times that taking advantage of somebody is necessary, and if it puts you in position to win, then you do it. But those things always come around, and so you got to balance when and how to do it. I think he had a race-winning car and an opportunity to win a race. It was probably a good time to do it. You want to get to victory lane when you do it like that, and he came up a couple inches short, which you can't be mad at the effort. But I also think that coming into this weekend and the next couple, you got to remember who was upset, and you got to make sure that you don't do anything to hurt their races in the next couple, right? Because time always heals everything, right? I mean, not that drivers forget, but you go a few weeks and you don't have any run-ins and everything calms down. But if you go out there right away the next week and you have another conflict, it's usually bad.
Some good advice there from Michael McDowell. Carson Hocevar absolutely should listen to what Michael has to say. But I don't think Hocevar needs to change or needs to rein it in dramatically, at least not yet. If he gets to a point where he's spinning guys out regularly or, right rearing people or doing some of the shenanigans he did in trucks a few years back, if he gets to that point, sure, we'll have that conversation just like we did with Ross Chastain. But until he really crosses that line, I don't want Carson Hocevar to lose the character, the personality behind the wheel. When Carson Hocevar makes a move when he's in that car, it looks different than when other people are driving cars. Right now, Carson has a ton of confidence. We just saw in qualifying, top 5 run. I don't want him to lose that. Speaking of this strong qualifying run, I asked Carson earlier today if the second place finish at Atlanta gives his young Spire Motorsports team any extra confidence to start the year, and this is what Carson said.
For us to be able to be good at the clash and run like 5th before I spun myself trying to throw a block, and then to have a shot to win Atlanta, right? I mean, it's 2 races we've had really good speed at the smallest bell ring, and then like kind of a hybrid 1.5 miles with, you know, all the guys that were up front were 1.5 miles guys. I mean, Bell and Larson are like the 2 guys at Vegas that are super dominant. So gives us a lot of confidence that, number one, I think from Spire's side, that reassures we're doing all the right things, but reassures myself that I'm in the right spot and doing the right things to, you know, go to the racetrack and prepare as if we're going to go have a shot to win races.
COTA this weekend is a bit of a wild card, but with Phoenix, Las Vegas, Homestead coming up quick, we'll see pretty quickly where Spire Motorsports stacks up early this season. I promised we'd talk about Trackhouse. I have some positive things in a moment, but let's start with a negative. Going back again to Atlanta, Daniel Suarez was kind of down on himself. And I understand, last weekend was extremely disappointing. In 2024, Suarez won that race. In 2025, he earned 0 stage points and crashed out in the final stage. I asked him today where his mindset is, and he assured me that he was mostly down on himself last week because at first he thought he was solely responsible for the crash. But now, after watching the replay several times, he says he feels that 2 or 3 cars now all share the blame. Here's what he told me.
It was a bad deal. You know, Ty Gibbs actually reached out and he apologized. I mean, I don't think it was his fault or anything. I mean, he could have avoided it maybe, but he had a pretty big run. It was going to be a big checkup for him to do that. But it was just, you know, I had a conversation, or my spotter had a conversation with the spotter of the 34, and he just missed it. He made a mistake, but it's part of it. You know, everything happens very quick, so it's in the past already. You know, I feel like there's a few things that I could have done better before that point in the race, and the car wasn't as good as I was expecting it to be. We learn from it and we move on.
But now looking forward, all eyes are on Trackhouse this weekend. I mentioned it earlier, they all qualified pretty well. Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain and Shane Van Gisbergen, for that matter, have all won Cup Series road course races in the past. Chastain, as a matter of fact, won here in 2022, slightly different configuration as we've documented. But point is, all of Trackhouse's full-time drivers are great road course racers, and the 4th guy, the new kid, 18-year-old Connor Zilic, is a world-class road course racing phenom, making his Cup Series debut this weekend, the 2nd youngest driver to make his Cup Series debut, only behind Joey Logano. If he somehow were to win tomorrow, he'd be the youngest Cup Series winner in the sport's history. That's a lot of pressure to put on this kid. I don't think anyone really expects Connor Zilic to win in his debut, although Vegas had him with the 2nd best odds most of the week. I'm not going to tell anyone how to spend their money, but that is bold. Zilic has quietly been extremely confident this weekend. I talked to his dad briefly yesterday, and he expressed that he's nervous, excited. I'm sure deep down that's how Connor Zilic is feeling as well, although his face all weekend long would not show it. Again, I got the chance to talk to Daniel Suarez today. I asked him about how big of a weekend this is for Trackhouse overall, how much of an opportunity this weekend could be for this team.
Yeah, it's great. Obviously, everyone is super excited. A lot of cool things happening this weekend. MotoGP is starting their season. Obviously, you know, there is a lot of new things happening. As you mentioned, we all are pretty decent in turning left and right. So looking forward to see if one of us can get a trophy.
Based on what I saw today, Shane Van Gisbergen is going to be tough to beat, but don't count out Daniel Suarez, Ross Chastain. They've been in the mix here in the past. Chase Elliott, really strong in qualifying, also looked pretty good in practice. And those 2311 cars, we know Tyler Reddick, past winner here, is great, but Bubba Wallace showing some improvement on the road courses. We'll see how they race tomorrow. 95 laps here at a slightly new look Circuit of the Americas. If you missed my video last night, SVG and Ross Chastain gave the media a short tour of the new look facility, specifically turn 6A. That's been a huge talking point all weekend. You can check that video out on my channel or click the little bug up here if you're watching on your phone or on PC. I will be back tomorrow evening after the Cup race. Hopefully we'll get some comments from the top finishers, top storylines, so on and so forth. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. I'll talk to you again soon.